Good morrow, ladies and gentlemen. I wish to provide a small chapter of the story I have chosen to weave for you this evening. We last left off with our party, Lady Ferret and her entourage traveling great distances into far foreign lands. A few stops along the way, and many nights, some of which a troubled Lady Ferret would continue to have occurring nightmares, seeing her lost sister in which she has not seen since childhood, and seeing things from a different perspective that she never once thought possible. Some powerful magic was at play, and it was all too well known after an amulet given to Lady Ferret as a gift was found around her neck. It compelled her to speak her sister's name to the Lord and Lady of the Divine Kingdom of Rath, causing the both of them to lose themselves in some kind of enchantment unknown to anyone there. This enchantment caused the Lord to call for the capture or death of the party. The party had to now escape or die fighting. Quick thinking, Crow tried to stop the Lord from uttering these commands, but Crow was promptly stopped by the Lord grasping his arm and pulling him in. As they wrestled, our friendly, ghostly Grandpa Barris began to cast sleep, putting the Lord and Lady in a deep slumber, and escaped through the wall to the outside. As the Lord and Lady fell asleep, the Lord let go of Crow. Thinking on his feet, he turned and quickly tackled a guard and held him in place. Not moments after, the front door burst open and more guards started to pour into the manor. Hearing the door, Bread vaulted onto the table and kicked a guard out of the way, grabbing a chair for cover, lest there be more guards with crossbows. Right after Bread, Ferret flipped over the table, grabbing a mug to throw into the guard's face, only to splash the contents all over him. Numpty, as senile as he was, knew exactly what to do. He cast a strong druidic spell, entangling friends and foe alike in strong roots, and yelled something unintelligible at the guards. Bells rang out outside, alerting nearby guards, and the voices of many were coming from the main road. Barris re-entered the building, into the kitchen, scaring servants. One rushed out, only to be promptly grabbed by Ferret as a hostage, trying to get some sort of information from him. As she did so, Crow, while entangled in Numpty's vines, stabbed at the pinned guard's legs and incapacitated him. Ferret had to remind him that they're not themselves, to try and be as non-lethal as possible, spare them if they could. Before saying much, more guards came charging in. It was becoming very, very crowded. Bread instinctively threw an axe at the god he just knocked down. The god dodged and smirked at the half-bear, only for the axe to return to Bread, because he is an artificer, and turned his normal axe into an axe of returning. That same axe returned and hit the god in the back. Ferret, getting no information, realized he was relatively useless and threw him into a guard, knocking them both down into the vines. Numpty in his senile old self tried to force-feed a guard with the food on the table. The god wanted nothing to do with it and struggled with all his might. A few exchanged words. The room went silent for a moment. It was a very, very awkward and long moment. Barris floated forward to the main hallway, to the front door, where all the guards were piled up. He casts a spell. For what I knew, that spell was Thunderwave. He pushed the guards back, and a chunk of the ceiling fell down and barred their way through. As Crow struggled within the vines, he finally broke free, only to see Bread begin to become enraged at the sight of a bear pelt across the room. In his rage, he threw the chair at a god, completely knocking him out. The eyes of murder bright. Numpty, in quick succession, as people started to break free from his vines, wild shaped into a baboon, a monkey of sorts, and jumped out of the window and out to the outside. Crow, as soon as he broke free, rushed to a door nearby, into another room, and hid inside, waiting for his companions. Bread, in his ever-continuous rage, walked by a guard as he was trying to help his comrade, and shot the guard in his knee, pinning him to the ground. Ferret ran into the room where Crow went, threw her spear at a guard to try and keep them away, but missed, only to have Barris retrieve said spear and toss it back to her. Barris floated up to the wall and prepared his next escape. Ferret and Bread amongst entering the same room, the very same one where Crow was hiding in a corner. Tension grew. Things were not going according to plan. Ferret wanted to spare as many gods as possible, and Bread, lost in his anger, didn't know what to do. As everyone began piling into the room, Numpty outside, Barris preparing to phase through the wall. Things grew tense. Barris went through the wall, and awaiting him on the other side was a knight clad in heavy armor. And dogs inside of a large cage began to bark and howl at him. Numpty, going along the outside on the opposite side of the building, was spotted by some archers. They fired and only hit the wall / fence. He promptly hid and made his way along the outside of the stone wall. Bread, once everyone was safe, took a bookshelf and barricaded the door so the guards could not give chase any longer. Ferret, understanding the direness of the situation, leapt out the window to find a single guard, an archer. She fired an arrow from her bow and missed, grabbing the attention of the archer. He fired an arrow. The knight next to Barris quickly made his way over to the cage of hounds and was ready to release them. Bread, making his way outside, looked at the hounds and began to speak to them, using his wild knowledge of the world around him. Began to speak to the animals. He convinced them that they were fighting for the wrong side. And upon their release, they attacked the knight. The hounds, moved by what Bread said, warned them of bear traps along the path into the forest. As time passed, rain began to drop. It was not a happy night. The group eventually made it to safety. Numpty casting fog to bar any sight as they disappeared into the forest. Numpty and Bread had a moment of understanding, as they are both men of the wild. But as they escaped into the forest, as the bells of the manor rang out behind them, shouting of guards, they could not shake the feeling that they were being watched. eyes within the forest. As they went and escaped, they had no idea that at some point they would miss the flapping of wings. In the distance, as they run deeper, deeper into the woods, the uncertainty grew. Bread's anger now subsided. Ferret's disappointment. Things were not right. Things would only get harder. And if I should say so myself, the hardships that the party will endure would only grow worse. This is all the time I have for this chapter of the story. But make sure you remind yourself to keep an ear out for flapping wings and an eye out for wandering eyes lurking behind the trees. Good night, everyone, and I will see you for the next chapter of Risky Business.